What is going on, everybody? It's really good to be back. It's Random Hero Gaming. Thought I would give it a shot with the new Call of Duty. I love using this shotgun. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of cheap, but I'm on Unk mode, so my reflexes aren't as good. I got to keep up with you whippersnappers somehow, some way. So this shotgun is really the best way I found to do this. But today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the unfair label that Gen Z gets, the participation trophy generation, the snowflakes, the soft generation, all that nonsense. Let me go back a couple months ago to a conversation I had with my dad and one of his friends. My dad, quintessential boomer from New York, tough guy, thick accent, has all the wrong boomer views on things like immigration, like Israel, like jobs, like dating, like the housing market. He's the one that's like utterly shocked and kind of upset that I'm not married by now and don't have kids, even though he was divorced. All those things. So my dad, like, perfect cognitive dissonance, typical boomer. And I'm talking to him a little bit about just the state of the world, how difficult things are. And my dad's the type of boomer as well that is competitive with the younger generations. He doesn't try to lift them up. He never tries to make me feel good about myself. It's always, I worked hard, I did this, I got this done, I gave it my all. You're just not working hard enough. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps and all that garbage. So I'm talking to him about a friend of mine that is average by all means. There's nothing wrong with being average. But average by all means, works his 9 to 5 at a big corporation, makes about 60 grand a year. He lives in an apartment with a roommate. He's 29 years old, about to turn 30. He desperately wants a family, desperately wants kids, and he's paying about $1,700 a month rent. That's with a roommate in South Florida. It's very expensive here. And I'm talking to my dad about this. And I'm like, Dad, my friend, he's doing everything right. He pays his taxes. He's never committed crime. He went to school. He got a degree. And he's not even close to being able to buy a house in this area. And my dad says, you know what? That's on him. He got the wrong degree. He should start his own business. He's never going to afford a family, and everything he wants is his job. And I should be doing it in my dad's very New York, Brooklyn accent. Oh yeah, he doesn't have the right degree. He doesn't know what he's doing. He could start a business. He doesn't have to live where it's so damn expensive. That's on him. I have no sympathy. I feel nothing. I had to get up every day, 5 a.m. at the scrap metal yard. I had to bust my ass moving scrap metal, driving the tractor and the bulldozer. He goes into his rant how take it away from my friend and just focus on him. What he did and all this. And my dad's so special. He's a brilliant mind. He beat the system, all that stuff. Not that he was a product of the most prosperous time in the history of this country. So my dad owned a scrap metal business in New York, before 2008, before precious metals and all that stuff kind of jumped up. And then he sold it, moved to Florida late 90s, early 2000, right on that borderline, like 2000. Moves to Florida, South Florida to be exact. Buys up a bunch of real estate for peanuts, pennies on the dollar. And of course, what happens next? Everything goes up 20x since then. And my dad thinks he's a genius that beat the system and is remarkable by all means, despite he can't even use a cell phone. He doesn't even know how to work his cell phone. He needs my help to make the brightness turn up. He needs my help to make the font larger. Needs my help to log into his Facebook. All the typical boomer stuff again, keep saying that, but he really is like the most boomer human being alive and not remarkable by any means. And his advice, so I asked him, okay, so what would your advice be to my friend? He's like, oh yeah, look at your friend Dylan from high school. He went to Walker, Minnesota, and he's installing blinds. He's making $100,000 a year. He's got a house over there. He didn't want to live around here, and it's expensive. And your friend gotta, he's telling my friend basically, quit your job, move to Minnesota. And nothing against Minnesota, but move to Minnesota, some BFE area of Minnesota, start a business. And as you know, small businesses have like a 40% success rate after 5 years. So quit your job, your reliable job, move to Minnesota, start a business installing blinds, which, I don't know. Some people probably like doing that. I don't know if he likes doing that. But my dad thinks it's that easy. Just, leave your, my friend grew up here. His parents are here. His sister is here. All his friends are here. His social network is here. And it's just like, just get up and move. Just leave the town you grew up in, everything your community, leave it all to be able to live this American dream where there's a 40-something% chance you're going to be divorced. You're going to be living paycheck to paycheck. You're one medical emergency away from being homeless. Just give up everything. And again, my friend, average by all means, makes average salary, maybe slightly above, pays his taxes, never gets in trouble. And my dad is essentially saying you need to be in the top 10% of earners and run your own business, which has a high chance of failing, to be able to own a home and have a wife and a kid. And the boomers will really tell you that. Instead of admitting to you that, and I'm going to go full circle here, instead of admitting to you that they live in the most prosperous, they grew up in the most prosperous times in the history of the nation, and all they had to do was kind of close their eyes and throw a dart at a board and buy a house there, and it's appreciated by an absurd amount. Close your eyes, throw a dart at the board, buy a tech stock, and it's appreciated absurd multiples, 100x. If you bought Facebook at the IPO or Microsoft, Apple, you name it, 40, 50 years ago, you're doing pretty damn good. So my dad thinks you need to be very exceptional, like him. Totally. Every boomer is like totally exceptional. They definitely know how to use Microsoft Excel. They definitely know how to type and use proper grammar and write an essay. They all definitely know how to do that. And the boomers didn't have to grow up in broken dating dynamics where if a woman has a phone, they have access to millions of men all over the globe, billions of men. Dating apps, swiping, Instagram, comparing yourself to other relationships. It used to be like women didn't have the scope of other relationships. If you were average, nowadays you have to wear the right clothes. You need to be jacked. You need to say that, you need to have game, a six-pack, wear the right clothes, go to the gym 5 times a week, all this stuff, have the right hobbies, have the right social networks. You need to do so many things right to obtain a woman. And that's just to obtain, not even just to keep them. Because if you want to keep them, then you have to compete with other couples they're seeing on Instagram and TikTok and reality TV. Boomers have no idea. You grew up, you were a boomer, all they had was rom-coms on television to compare themselves to. And then when they're out in public with their friends, that's maybe a friend group of 4 or 5 people. Boomers have absolutely no idea. And if you're a young man today, everyone hates you. You're pretty much blamed for everything wrong. So if you're a young man today, you're pretty damn resilient. If you're still alive and you didn't unalive yourself, you're pretty damn resilient. The job market's horrible. There's more women in college than men. There's no male-only spaces to socialize and meet people. Every hobby has been just about tainted by diversity, women, inclusion. And if you're a young man, you've definitely felt what it's like to be discriminated against. And boomers have no idea. Boomers refuse to admit they're mostly a product of their environment, and it was a very positive environment for growth. Men today growing up, way more men growing up with single mothers and not even having a male role model to show them the ropes. My parents divorced when I was a young age. And my dad was not so much a dad. He was a competitor. He didn't show me the ropes. He didn't even want me to do better than him. He just kind of picked on me. He kind of picked on me and used me as like, oh, I'm doing better than my son. Ha, I'm so big and tough. I did everything right. I'm richer than him. I was better at sports than him. I get more women than him. You know, it's a very weird thing. And I know he loves me, but it's strange. I don't know if you guys have boomer parents that like to imagine you as a competitor, as like a barometer to how their life was, trying to make you live That's the other screwed up thing. My dad made me live vicariously, or he lived vicariously through me and made me do things that he knew I wouldn't do as well as him. Like, you know, I wasn't huge into sports. I'm not very athletic. I'm not super tall or strong or fast. He was, and he knew I wouldn't be as good as him in certain sports, and he made me do them anyway and kind of pushed me to. It was just bad. But when you bring these things up to the boomers, you push them back on their parenting, you push them back on their voting habits, you push them back on being wrong about issues like the Iraq War, the '08 bailouts, the housing crisis. You push them on things like NAFTA, things that they voted for politicians that approved all these horrible things, especially the Iraq War. And then, you know, the pandemic happens and the boomers were the ones that wanted to kind of shut everything down. So the boomers have done a lot wrong. And if you press them on these things, watch them just recoil and get so defensive. Oh, no, I worked hard. Yeah, I only needed 2 years of my income to buy a house when you need 10. But yeah, no, I'm super smart and cool. Yeah, I don't know how to use a smart TV, but yeah, I'm like really smart, and I worked harder than you guys and your soft generation ruining everything, even though we've held power for the last 4 decades. If you are a young man today and you're still kicking and you're still showing up to work, you're still getting out of bed every day, you have gone through more adversity than the boomers. But oh, they went to Nam. They got drafted into Vietnam. And okay, if I had a loving wife and family and a house to return to that was affordable and I could take them on vacations, yeah, I'd fight no war for that. You're damn right. I'd fight no war for that. So I just think Gen Z men on average are more right-wing than the boomers. My dad always goes on he claims he's a Republican, but he'll always be like, "Oh, you lazy kids. This is why we need to streamline immigration. I can't get anyone to fix my car. I can't get anyone to do this. You kids are so lazy." And then, you know, the boomers are the ones that kind of made us lazy. You know, they kind of sold us out for cheap labor, offshored all these jobs, imported the third world for very cheap labor, used them instead of their own kids, and raised their own kids to be robust workers with their hands. Instead, they just liberated women to the point where women are outpacing men in typically male activities like going to college, medical field, law field. And again, cat's out of the bag on that. That's what women are choosing. But the boomers royally screwed up this world. And we're kind of living in it. Most of us grew up in broken homes, maybe single mothers. It's not easy out there for us guys, and we are way, way more resilient than the boomers. Way more resilient, young Gen Z men. So I just wanted to dispel that rumor that we are the participation trophy special snowflake generation. It's a total projection. Total projection. And when the boomers go and Gen Z, hopefully Gen Z men, take over and seize political power, which I want you guys to do, to not totally give up, I think we'll maybe hopefully see some real reform. But I definitely trust Zoomer men more than the boomer men when it comes to governing and making the right decisions. Anyway, I'll catch you guys next time. Hope you enjoy that. Let me know if you want me to go back to the older Call of Duties. Hope you all have a good night.